Hey everyone, I'm Kate. Thank you so much for listening to New You Women. I'm here with Liz Hardy, and I'm so excited about doing this episode with her. Here in New You Women, you are going to hear some valuable tools, some beautiful encouragement, and know that you're not alone here, where we dive deep into some vulnerability to help encourage you and help you grow and heal from anything that you're dealing with through your journey. So, Liz, I want to get to know you a little bit and hear a little bit of your story.
Hey, how are you? I'm super excited to be here and honored as a New Women representative because this is to share my story and to see kind of where I've been and where I've God has taken me is it brings me joy. It gets me excited and I get butterflies in my stomach, but it also reminds me, being vulnerable with other people. People celebrate, will clap for you whenever you have a success, but they're
Yeah.
going to relate to you whenever you share your heart and your soul and your vulnerability, right? That's when I'm going to come alongside. But my story is to me it's a little chaotic. It's been a series of surrenders, but I come from a mother that was mentally ill, an alcoholic household, divorced parents early on in my teens. I just sought escape through drugs and alcohol at a very early age. I lost my innocence very young, and it kind of made some really horrible decisions, intoxicated as a
Mm.
youth, that had for years haunted me into adulthood, and really stayed stuck in that hate and the resentment towards my mother for her alcoholism, her mental illness, and just felt super confused for a very, very long time, numbing out with alcohol and drugs and sex and all the things to try to escape from myself, and ended up in a very, very dark place in my early 20s, lost, homeless, no money, no family, nowhere to go, and kind of a shell of a person and a soul that was really, really dark. And God took that darkness and turned it into an amazing success story of His grace and His mercy. And so
Yeah.
um, that is my mission in life, is to share, to come along other women wherever they're at in their journey, and to kind of share what God can do when it seems impossible.
Wow. When you were sharing about your mother right now and as a kid, do you remember some of those memories? Like, do you actually still remember some of those memories of what you felt or saw?
Yeah, absolutely. So it
What
was
did that
very
make you feel?
as a kid, it was very confusing because she struggled with like depression and mental illness, and and there was times of sobriety, right? So it wasn't all her drinking. It didn't matter if she was drinking or not. When you're suffering with mental illness,
Yeah.
you take naps a lot. I remember being a kid and my dad was at work, and I'd be at home and I'd be lonely, like so lonely. I remember going to the neighbor's house
Mm.
because I wanted somebody to pay attention to me. She was an 80-year-old lady next door to me who was taking care of her husband who had Alzheimer and mother who had dementia. And I
Mm.
was so lonely. I was like, hey, let's have tea. Then I hung out with my other neighbor on the other side. She was a 40-year-old divorcee with two dogs. She'd watch like Sleepless in Seattle, and I'd hang
I love
out
that
with
movie, by the
Marge.
way.
Yeah, I know. So I was this little girl that, like, from my mom's, her suffering,
Hmm.
I just sought to be seen and like somebody pay attention. And so that was what I took it as, is I didn't want to be overbearing or too much. And I wanted to connect with others. And eventually, me seeking that connection caused a lot of heartache. But the scene at home was not pleasant. It wasn't pleasant, and took years of kind of unlearning some of the
What did
pain.
your dad think of all this? Like, what, I mean, does your dad, like, what was
Yeah,
his position
absolutely.
in all this?
So, I mean, he was no saint of his own. He's definitely not alcoholic and didn't have mental illness, but he was
Mhm.
off building a $1 million company, a commercial construction company in Dallas, very successful.
Yeah.
Lots of trips, lots of hunting, lots of
He wasn't
entertainment,
really there for you either.
clients. Yeah. So he, as much as he wanted to be emotionally, could not quite be there. So when they divorced, I
Mm.
actually lived with my father, and I knew he loved me beyond a shadow of a doubt, but he couldn't quite be there all the time because he was working a lot.
Mm.
So we both went through the trauma of my mom calling late at night, in a mental, manic breakdown, trying to get a hold of us. We'd have to unplug the phone. We were both really, we bonded over that trauma. And so it took a long time for me to realize that it wasn't just all my mother. right? Like my mom got a bad rap because of her issues, but there was,
Mm-hmm.
there's two people in a marriage, and there's other
Mm-hmm.
things that my father did that, caused pain in their
Yeah.
relationship. And I guess as I got older, kind of separating from that trauma story and the victimhood
Yeah.
that it caused, I was a victim, but then at some point in life, I had to make a decision to stop blaming that situation
Mm-hmm.
for
Yes.
my terrible behavior. You know,
Yeah. What was it? What was some of the things that you went through because of that trauma that you noticed now you look back that
right?
it came from that?
Well, I mean, me seeking outside of myself to try to find comfort and connection. The first time I remember, I got really intoxicated. I was just a child, basically, 14,
Mm.
15 years old. And then that was the first time I
Wow.
lost my virginity. Okay. So that was my, break into that. And there was times when I was younger and I was intoxicated, and, I had sex and I ended up getting pregnant, and I had an abortion, and that haunted me for years. Me sitting
Mm. Mm-hmm.
on the table holding this nurse's hands and me crying. I remember it like it was yesterday, and feeling like I had no one to turn to and nobody. So I of course buried myself in the pain for a very, very long time. And it did shape my reality for years to come.
Wow. So what was that turning point for you? How old were you when you decided that you just like, I got to get my life together here?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I was 16 years old when I had the abortion, and that was kind of a turning point in my life where I realized, like, my dad walking into, the bedroom, and after finding out the news through a family friend, because I told my best friend's mom because I wouldn't tell him. He found out that way. He came in and said, "What happened to my little girl?" And I just
Mm.
remember, "What happened to your little girl?" I don't know. I started seeking outside things. That's what happened. And so he said, we got some help. He said he found a place that he was going to send me to kind of, recalibrate, because at the rate I was going, I was going to kill myself, no doubt, with this behavior. So
Yeah.
that was a turning point in my life. Is at 16, I went to an all girls treatment facility in Marietta, Oklahoma. And part of that, that experience was not, didn't change everything, but at least it kept me from killing myself as a teenager. So that
Wow.
was one of the first turning points in my life. But I would say the most impactful one was after many, many times of trying to get sober, and then staying sober, and then going back out and trying to navigate being a teenager sober. Like I hadn't even hit my 21st birthday.
Oh, wow. When you
Yeah,
sobered up, it was before 21.
yeah, I was 16 years old and had stayed sober. I was like 1998 for 3 years.
Okay.
Went to college, had the college experience,
Mhm.
and eventually I ended up, using drinking again. And and this time it was different
Mhm.
because I uh, I viewed God a lot like I viewed my father, which was that God would love me if I was a good little girl, and if I was
Mhm.
a sober little girl, and if I, did all the things, checked all the boxes, went to school, kept up with that, my apartment and a social life and a sorority. I was, pledge class president
Yeah.
and all those things. And I realized that like God's love for me, was based on my activity. And the turning point that changed my life forever was
Mhm.
24. I realized for the first time I was lost. I was on drugs. I was, had spent, all my money on bad things, living in darkness. And in that moment, it was one night in summer, and God came into a car. That sounds so strange. God came,
Uh,
his presence came into the car with me and a friend who had been living way, way, way off. And she hesitated to even say these words, but she said it. She said, "Have you ever asked Jesus into your heart?"
Wow.
And for some reason, I heard it in the darkness. I realized that this verse came true for me, that he who knew no sin became sin. I knew that God came in a car where I was filthy rags and had nothing to offer and wasn't a good
Mhm.
little girl. And I was so far away, it wasn't even funny. He came
Mhm.
in that car to save me that night. And from that point on, his love in that moment, over time, things started to shift for me. And I realized like there was something more out there than what I had been doing.
A true that in the car where you're at, true spiritual moment for you.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
that is a beautiful turning point. So, Liz, I look at you and everyone looks at you as a very resilient, bright, shining, fun person. So, I listening to all this and what you've been through, some will really, really relate to this, and some will be like, wow, what a story, right? And some will be like, thank you so much for this. And some were like, I relate to you, but I've never been through that. What is something that helped you now, right? Because you've been through, like, gone through, the alcohol, the drugs, the mom, the dad, the feeling of alone, and you've seen things, you've heard things, you've gone through things emotionally. What is it then? What is it that's helped you become so resilient and say, and give you the confidence to say, like, I'm Liz Hardy, and look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I can do this, and I have the confidence.
Right.
Not
So I think
feel the pain still from the past.
right. I think it was important that I'd not dismiss the things that I had gone through. I had to take a look at them. I had to heal, and sometimes that process of transformation, what God does in our lives and in our hearts, is painful. Like, think about the transformation of a butterfly, a caterpillar to a butterfly. Like, that's a painful thing for the caterpillar to, experience and go through. And me becoming a butterfly, and the masterpiece God intended me to be, has really been about taking a look at what's happened and then putting that in God's hands and
Mhm.
letting me be a piece of clay and letting him mold me into whatever he wants me to be. Instead of me telling him what I want, I ask him today, what do you want me to be? And so that's what gives me the confidence today, is every day I wake up, I ask God, what's our assignment? What do you have for me today? Instead of it being a life based on me and what I want, which is, I was running, my whole life for
Mm,
years, and we saw where that got me. It got me alone. It got me in pain. It got me separated. It got me, basically throwing my life down the drain. So today it's like, I feel like God's my employer. I'm
mm,
just showing up. I'm in this game and here to pack into the stream of life whatever he has called me to do, and whatever doesn't fit, I know I have faith that he'll remove it. So when you wake up with that, it's a God confidence. It's not in
mm,
me. I know what I do with my life, but God has given me this platform to kind of step forward and say, no matter how dark it gets, no matter how far gone you feel, that God leaves the 99 for the one. He'll come back for you. And
mm.
so that's my message. I get to share that daily. That's where my confidence comes from, because it's not based on me.
Yeah.
It's based on what God can do through me if I surrender.
Wow, that's beautiful. And what is something that, it's interesting because as I'm listening to you, like, someone's thinking about this and hearing you, and they're like, but I still feel it.
Yeah.
Right. And I even actually had this experience the other day, and it's about being self-aware, right? A lot of the healing, from trauma is self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's first admitting, like, what's happened. It's admitting how you feel, but then being aware of what you still feel, right? There's moments that I'll be like, oh, my heart is like just starting to hurt, right? And that could be like a little trigger of my heart saying, hello, I'm still here. I still need to be cared for, like, and that just shows me a moment of saying, okay, I'm not done healing yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And that's
like, how
okay.
do I keep going in that? So, when you get those moments of feeling that way, it could be like something that maybe in your life that you feel that it was way in the past that all of
Mhm.
a sudden was abroad. What is, like, how do you feel in that moment? Like, what do you do? How do you react to that when you get that kind of trigger, or that moment of hurt again?
Right. Well, I've actually since lost both my parents. One, my mother passed away from cancer years ago, and my dad of a heart attack about 5 years ago.
Mm,
So the pain of losing them, I had to grow up a lot. The first time when my mom passed away, she was the first one to go. I did not emotionally handle that well, and so a
mm,
good barometer of that is, I ended up kind of tanking my life again. And then my dad passed away 5 years ago, and I got to experience loss and go through pain and hardship with
mm,
a different perspective this time. I learned a lot from the first time, and then so with my father, even though it was painful, I didn't throw my
mm,
whole life away. And so I guess whenever I'm in the middle of something that is being brought up again, like a wave of grief comes to me again,
mhm,
I'm a lot more gracious with myself and loving
mhm,
with myself than I used to be. But when you've gone through, something tough and you resist it, I feel like it delays the process of healing. But whenever you go through something hard and you lean in and you surrender, I give it to
Mm.
God, I feel like I'm able to heal and put it in perspective. And so
Yeah.
it's not that I'm denying its existence. It's just not as a big of a, it's not hyper, I'm not hyper focused on it.
Right.
So one way to get out of that is if I'm in it, is to accept that it's happening, to share it with
Mhm.
another human being, and to pray about it. I love to do like a brain dump whenever I'm going through those things, writing out everything and not judging what's coming to mind or to heart, just writing it all out, surrendering that to God, asking God to use that for His will and to help me to keep moving forward.
Do you journal a lot?
I
Do you?
do more so today than I ever have in my life. I resisted that
Mhm.
for years, but it actually is one of the most beneficial ways I stay connected to God and to myself. Yes.
Yeah, I feel the same way. That's been something even as a child, when someone that has kind of dealt with different things and trauma and different sad parts of my life. Um, I write. I used to go to my room and write, and almost like just like talk to is like talking to a friend.
Yes.
It's helped a lot when I didn't really know how to express what I was feeling or going through. But one of my particular key of ingredients, through healing of trauma that's helped me a lot, is forgiveness.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think that I've been so blessed with that one, attribute, and I'm thankful for it because it's a beautiful key to that ingredients of healing. Um, Forgiveness is though is a very painful experience, because you feel like you have to surrender um, your justice of wanting to get back at maybe someone you love, someone that you don't know that's hurt you, a stranger that's hurt you, whatever it is. Like you feel like I'm justified, so it's surrendering, saying I don't have the right to pay back. That's not my job. That's not my responsibility. But when you do finally realize that it's not your responsibility, it's a huge relief and a big heaviness off of your life and your shoulders to allow yourself to heal.
Right.
And I always encourage, right, people that every single day is your job is to heal. Your job is to forgive. It is not your job to get back and to find justice in the matter. Has been my biggest takeaway from healing.
I love it. I love to focus on that God changes hearts. I don't have
Yeah.
that ability, right? He's the one who's in charge of that. I need to show up but one way that's been really powerful, a way we talk about women's empowerment a lot with new women.
Yeah.
Um, Something that empowered me greatly with when I was offended in relationships that hurt me deeply, whether that's, big or small, is looking at where was I wrong, and not in a self-defacing or shameful way, but sometimes in order to see how we showed up and how we're responsible for the part that we played in a relationship and what we could do in the future to do better. I think these are all highly important things, instead of it just being, if I wait around for other people to change and to do better before I'm happy or decide to go forward in life, I'm going to be waiting for a very, very long time. But if I take responsibility for how I showed up in that relationship, or maybe I truly am a victim, but the only thing I've done is kept and held on to the offense, which is an offense. That's what I'm responsible for. As long as I take that, hard look at myself to see what I could have done different. I think that's the key component to real lasting
Yeah.
forgiveness is,
Hmm.
taking a look at yourself and seeing where you could show up differently.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask you one more question, and this is how real I got. I'm gonna grab my charger real quick because my laptop's about to die. That is literally like how we're in the moment. But think on this subject this question real quick. I want you to come up and think of a beautiful, valuable tool that has helped you grow through your healing, your trauma, the things that you've been through, that someone's listening to right now that's like in the moment. If you were looking at somebody right now in the moment that has dealt with alcohol, that has dealt with maybe abortion, that has dealt with a mom or a dad that does not love them, or even just a stranger that maybe has hurt them, whatever it be, maybe a partner, maybe abuse, however it is, you're looking them in the face. What would you say to them? How would you give them a couple of key tools to help them get through that and not feel alone?
Sure. Do you want me to wait until you get back
No,
before?
go for it.
Are you saying go for it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Well, I would just basically just encourage you to there is a place for outside help. Therapy was a big part of my healing. Staying stuck and talking about it over and over and over again was like not going to be what was going to work for me. I had to get into some solution as quickly as possible, but also allow myself the grace to be in pain. Surrounding yourself with people who can support you, during the big changes in your life, being
Mhm.
honest about where you're at. I think a lot of the times we stay stuck in pain in situations and kind of hangups and addictions, and because we're lying to others, we're
Yeah.
lying to ourselves. We can't be completely honest about where we're at. And whenever we isolate ourselves from others and keep secrets, we stay sick, right? So I would
Mhm.
encourage you to be honest with at least one other person who you can trust about whatever it is that's going on in your life, and to kind of empower yourself. The secrets are what holds you back, but the honesty is going to break you free to freedom. So to be honest with others, to seek outside help when needed. And then, I guess for me, honestly, I don't have anything wisdom wise to offer other than seek God with your whole heart, with your whole mind, and with your whole soul. When you do that, everything else falls into place. The healing that you need comes.
Yeah.
The wisdom that you need comes. The courage that you need comes to face each new day. So whatever that looks like, I know it's so easy to get distracted in this world and to kind of put
Mhm.
placement, your focus on things that truly don't matter.
Yeah.
But what matters most is seeking God with every fiber of your being, because He won't ever let you down. That's where contentment lies. So that would be my biggest takeaways on how to face the things that you're going through recently.
That's so beautiful. We ask the question over and over, why does pain become so like transforming? Why does, brokenness, feel like it's hurting us, and I've looked at it, and I am at the point now where I feel that pain is only just the beginning of growth.
Right.
It's opening the door to growth, and that brokenness is just the beginning of a new strength.
Yeah.
So it's like encouraging somebody to just plug into that personal development, that mindset, that community, is such a beautiful, thing to experience. So, I love this, Liz. Thank you so much.
Thank
I mean, I want to hear more and more. We're gonna have you come back and just really kind of dive into a little bit more of your story, because I bet you there's a lot of people that will listen to this be like, wow, like what was that feeling at that moment in that present time,
Right.
and just really dive into how you felt, through some of your deeper, emotional things that you've gone through. But,
Right.
I want to just encourage everyone that's listening right now, stay plugged in, because this journey that you're going through, you're not alone in it. We have this beautiful community here of women that would love to support you, where you're going to find that love and support, and even some different amazing ways to heal and train and be trained in that. And I want to also honor you, because if you've listened to this whole thing, and it just shows that you are looking for that healing, you are looking for that growth, and you are diving into yourself, personal development. So I want to just honor you, in that. So thank you, Liz, so much for everything and your time. And everybody will see you again soon.
Bye, y'all.